No one tells P. Diddy what to do. Like,
Absolutely.
who tells him what to do?
Clive Davis in the beginning. No, he didn't empower him. That his ass on a block. He gave him power. And all he had to do was diddle-dee-dee and diddle-dee-dum.
The relationship between Clive Davis and Diddy is interesting because when Diddy's 23 years old, he's making a name for himself. Clive gave him $15 million to start Bad Boy Records. And then later on, they did even a bigger deal where Clive gave him $50 million advance on future earnings. This is 5 years later in 1998. $6 million upfront payment, $700,000 annual salary, and a state-of-the-art recording studio. We're talking $2 million recording studio. This is when he went after Faith Evans. He got Biggie in the early 90s. This is when it started. But there's a relationship with Clive. And it's interesting because Clive later on, they say something may have happened here because Shook said Clive taught him the bad habits.
He was part of the government. And I say that because that's why it was so easy to snatch Puffy down. And all the people that they can't say nothing because they're part of it too.
For many years, the music industry has focused on image. We see smiles on red carpets, emotional speeches at award shows, and inspiring stories about talent, hard work, and luck. But behind that polished image, many insiders say there is another side of the industry. They claim there is a hidden system that runs on silence, fear, and control. When Jaguar Wright said the words, he kept all the tapes, people paid attention. It was not shocking because it was new. It was shocking because it sounded familiar. It felt like something people had heard before, but were too afraid to say out loud. This time, she was not only pointing at Sean Diddy Combs, she was also pointing upward toward Clive Davis. Clive Davis is not just another executive. He is one of the most powerful figures in music history. He helped build careers, shape trends, and control access to opportunities for decades. His influence goes far beyond one artist or one label. That is why Jaguar Wright's claims had such a strong impact. According to her, Diddy did not create the system of power, leverage, and recorded secrets. He learned it, and she believes the person who taught him was Clive Davis. This is not about proven facts or court decisions. It is about patterns. It is about stories that keep coming back over the years. It is about why some names always seem protected while others are pushed aside. Most importantly, it is about why some people in the industry seem truly afraid now that Diddy's legal problems are no longer rumors. Because if Diddy falls, the big question becomes clear. Who is standing behind him and hoping their name is never mentioned? When Sean Combs was fired from Uptown Records in the early 1990s, his future looked uncertain. He had talent and ambition, but he had also made enemies. Many executives thought he was too reckless. That was when Clive Davis stepped in.
You're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't. So once again, why does diplomacy matter? It wasn't diplomacy that got me that award. It was honesty. So understand this. You can save your race shame and your race-baited conversations. Ain't nobody worried about y'all. We got serious work to do. And after talking to my good friend Paperwork today, it looks like there's some things that I need to make sure that we alert Cash Patel's office about. We think it's of great concern. And I'm sure Mary Flynn would agree with me. She knows how dangerous Diddy can be, and with Clive Davis being at the heart of it all, I'm sure that makes it even more egregious. So yeah, last time I checked, I'm American. Prove I'm not, and then have a problem with it.
At that time, Clive Davis was already a legend. People saw him as a kingmaker. If he believed in someone, doors opened. If he did not, careers could quietly end. According to public records, Clive provided funding and distribution support that helped Bad Boy Records succeed after Diddy left Uptown. Diddy has openly thanked Clive Davis many times. At major award shows, he publicly credited Clive for believing in him when others did not. He called him a mentor and guide. On the surface, this looked like a simple success story. A young visionary was supported by an experienced executive, but critics say the mentorship went beyond music. Jaguar Wright claims Clive did not just teach Diddy how to run a record label. She says he taught him how power works in the industry. She claims he showed him how to control stories, how to collect leverage, and how to protect himself by making sure others had more to lose than he did.
They just know he got the budget. He go to LA, he talk to Clive, he come back with the bread. Apparently, he has this man's confidence. Yeah, I'm sure that man was very confident with his penis in his mouth. You know what I'm saying? Clive is a whole freak.
You think Clive put him on to all
I
that?
know. Clive, that's what he do. Queen Clive. Long may she reign in hell.
When 50 Cent...
Don't nobody want to talk about why R. Kelly's bus was parked in Clive Davis's driveway, why his tour bus was parked in Clive Davis's driveway at the house where the down between Chris and Rihanna. Don't nobody want to talk about why it was filled with video girls who were being trafficked. And he was never questioned by Me Too. Why ain't nobody from Me Too saying anything? They had so much to say about Harvey Weinstein, who's now all his charges is being dropped. So much for their investigation. Guess it was a little paper thing. I don't know. These bad talkative. They was on the news every goddamn day. And then they brought that witch McGowan, fresh off a breakup with Marilyn Manson, feeling low, gave her a cause. You like the with Harvey Weinstein, right? That's real rad.
In this version of events, Bad Boy was not just a business opportunity. It was a classroom, and Diddy was a student learning lessons that would shape his behavior for years. Again, these are allegations. But they are allegations that many insiders believe explain why Diddy's rise seemed so carefully planned from the beginning.
So no one tells P. Diddy what to do. Like,
Absolutely.
who tells him what to do?
Clive Davis in the beginning. No, he didn't empower him. That ass on the block. He gave him power. And all he had to do was diddle-dee-dee and diddle-dee-dum. Like, he wasn't going to tell Gene and them that's how he was getting the money.
Right.
Let's be real about that. You think he was going to admit to these we went to school with, who essentially he asked to come to make his G official? Like you heard him say, Christopher Williams Street, Pete Rock, I'll Be Short. They could. You know what I'm saying? Gene Deal. Like, ain't nobody looking at how Puff positioned himself. There was a wall of protection and talent and brilliance around him. Nobody had to look at him for real, for real. And the truth is nobody did. Everybody laughed and joked about him dancing like a in all them goddamn videos. Twirling around in circles and this wild. Like, you know, so I'm just saying, they didn't know. And he wasn't telling them. They just know he got the budget. He go to LA, he talk to Clive, he come back with the bread. Apparently, he has this man's confidence. Yeah, I'm sure that man was very confident with his penis in his mouth. You know what I'm saying? Clive is a whole freak.
You think Clive put him on to all
I
this?
know. Clive, that's what he do. Queen Clive. Long may she reign in hell.
When 50 Cent...
Don't nobody want to talk about why R. Kelly's bus was parked in Clive Davis's driveway, why his tour bus was parked in Clive Davis's driveway at the house where the shit between Chris and Rihanna. Don't nobody want to talk about why it was filled with video girls who were being trafficked. And he was never questioned by Me Too. Why ain't nobody from Me Too saying anything? They had so much to say about Harvey Weinstein, who's now all his charges is being dropped. So much for their investigation. Guess it was a little paper thing. I don't know. These bitches was mad talkative. They was on the phone every goddamn day. And then they brought that witch Rose McGowan, fresh off a breakup with Marilyn Manson, feeling low, gave her a cause.
For many years, quiet rumors followed Clive Davis. They did not often appear in major headlines, but they were repeated within industry circles. There were stories about favors, power dynamics, and relationships that went beyond contracts and meetings. Later in life, Clive Davis publicly came out as bisexual in his memoir. Many people said this confirmed what had long been whispered. He spoke openly about having male partners but did not reveal their names. That choice increased speculation. Some people claimed that one of those relationships involved Diddy during the early years of Bad Boy Records. There were also claims that the financial support and industry access Diddy received came with unspoken expectations. These allegations have never been proven, but they have been repeated by different figures over time. Suge Knight publicly said that other executives confirmed a deeper relationship between Clive and Diddy. He suggested that Diddy experienced exploitation and later repeated similar behavior after gaining power. Jaguar Wright agrees with this idea. She argues that abuse in the industry can be generational. According to her, some people who survive it are taught to become enforcers instead of victims.
Can't let Bank of America go out of business. We can't let these guys go out of business. Is Biggie part of the too big to fail, or are there people way above Diddy that are part of the too big to fail that they'll always be protected, specifically when you say higher ups?
Well, you got to look at it like this. Puffy is one of those black guys is probably more fear of white America than black America. We feel in black America, we pass all that. They can't get to him. In white America, you got to show them some respect. Are they going to spank him on his ass? Especially now, because when you really look at it, Ciroc was a great company that gave Puffy opportunity. I think he gave him $1,000 to get in, and then he was able to make all this money, and then he wanted more and more and more. And the first time they didn't allow him to throw a tantrum, he hit him with the stuff that people hit him with probably. So he told him, "Hey, you racist, you motherfuckers." They say, "Yeah." You know, I often say that I was raised in Compton, but I was made in Vegas at UNLV. UNLV taught me the opportunity to be around people that was business-minded, that was loyal, that was happy. And that's where my lessons came from. So I understand business better than most people. That's why I ain't never been in no damn videos. So at the end of the day, when Puffy went at the alcohol business, I used to play football with John Kennedy Jr. almost every weekend. One of the best guys I ever met and hung out with. We used to play football. But that being said, he come from a bootlegger family. Most of the big guys come from a bootlegger family. You know, the alcohol was legal. These guys is smart enough to be humble and wide enough to be aggressive tough. So when Puffy challenged him, and they knew Puffy lived in the glass house, his house came tumbling down because those rocks was coming through that glass house. On the simple fact, when he called those guys racist, and they knew he had those secrets, those hidden secrets, they ain't just found out that the things Puffy was doing. They ain't just found out how the industry is. They haven't just found out how they pick and choose. They're part of the government. And I say that because that's why they were so easy to snatch mother Puffy down. And all the people that Puffy, they can't say nothing because they're part of it too.
There is no verified evidence proving these claims. What makes people uncomfortable is how often the same story appears, told by different people in different years with similar details. It raises a difficult question. If these rumors are completely false, why have they never disappeared?
Davis, of course, everybody knows the music mogul, record executive, and everything. And when that story came out, what Suge Knight said about Puffy and everything, Clive Davis's people said, "Oh, Suge Knight's a disgraced felon." And then it got me thinking. I remember 20-some years ago, David Stern said the same thing about Tim Donahue, the referee who betted on games and got in trouble. And out of his mouth was, "Well, he's a felon." And they hate to throw that word around to say that people who got convicted of something serious, that they can't ever come back into society, that they can't ever have another opportunity. That's a nice way of brushing them off. However, they never address the elephant in the room. And so when Clive Davis said that about Suge Knight, Suge was talking about the 90s, talking about what he heard, what he knew, what was making the rounds. I tell anybody this, Puffy wasn't some great producer or composer. He wasn't Teddy Riley. He may have grew up in certain areas as Teddy Riley. He wasn't Teddy Riley. So how did he get a credit of a $70 million credit limit on Arista Records to start Bad Boy? You do the wonder and the math. How you get a credit limit when you're not a producer, you're not a singer, you're not a rapper, and you're kind of comical with your dance routines. So you tell me what happened. Something strange. Tim Donahue, NBA ref. Yes, obviously, betting on games. Rasheed Wallace addressed that and all that, and all the bookies, etc. And he did his time. We always look at the NBA, know stuff be fixed and fake. We know superstars, people have been getting calls for years. We know that they want a market to be a market. And those who remember 20 years ago, the Lakers' last run when Shaq and Kobe, and it was Carmelo and Gary Payton and Phil Jackson, with Derek Fisher and Rick Fox. What came out of David Stern's mouth? He said, if I had my way, it'd be LA versus LA. It's about market to market. Yeah. See, when people tell the truth, I don't care if they have been convicted of something or not. Facts is facts. That has nothing to do with the reality. But I noticed that Clive Davis, like David Stern, like to throw that felon word on people to offset from talking about the reality. When we put some stuff together, you don't have to be Einstein or a genius to see, or Dr. Charles Drew or something to put it together, or George Washington Carver to see where the nut is coming from, where it grows. You can see it right there in front of your eyes. There's no element of surprise there.
When Jaguar Wright said he kept all the tapes, she was being literal. She described a system of control. According to her, the recordings were made on purpose. She claims Diddy recorded private moments, parties, conversations, and situations where people were compromised, not for entertainment and not for memories, but for leverage. She also says Diddy did not create this idea. She believes he learned it from those who came before him. Jaguar suggests that Clive Davis understood the power of recorded secrets long before Diddy did. In her view, the fear around Clive Davis today is not about direct involvement in crimes. It is about exposure. It is about history being revealed without protection. There is no public proof that Clive Davis appears on any recording. No tape has been released showing his involvement. But fear does not always need evidence. Fear can exist in possibility. If recordings exist, they do not have to be released to create panic. The possibility alone can make powerful people nervous. That is why, according to Jag, Clive Davis may be watching Diddy's downfall closely, not with sympathy but with concern. When one powerful person loses protection, everyone connected to him can become vulnerable.
Can you just get, for people who don't know, like, because
When
I've always thought
entertainment-
black people started music, just me.
Well, the thing is we did. We were the culture. The Jews and the Italians monetized it and started setting prices. That's why Clarence Avant was so important to the black community in entertainment. Because he was the go-between for the talent to the powers that be. He understood what their objective was and he knew what his people needed, and he created that balance, which is why Clive Davis hated him so much. See, people don't want to... Did y'all see when they interviewed Dapper Dan about Diddy?
I haven't seen that one. Please.
They ran into Dapper Dan in Harlem and they asked him what he thought about what was going on with Diddy and if he knew Diddy. And I love Dapper Dan for this. He said, I grew up with his parents. I knew his parents. He said, and what's going on with him has been going on long before him. Now, his father was a government snitch and a bad actor in the criminal world altogether. The woman that they're saying is his mother was a prostitute, a whore. But there's whispers in the streets of Harlem that Diddy's mother isn't alive. Not his biological mother, that woman is his aunt.
Whoa.
There are
Wait a
whispers.
minute. Wait a minute.
There are whispers. Diddy's story is so convoluted, but nobody really likes talking about who he was before he became Puffy.
As lawsuits and allegations against Diddy became public, one pattern kept appearing. There were parties, private gatherings, and late-night environments where normal rules did not seem to apply. Former insiders described these events as controlled spaces. According to allegations, guests were surrounded by wealth, influence, and pressure. Substances were present, boundaries became unclear, and recordings were allegedly made. Jaguar Wright claims this system did not start with Diddy. She says it was a model passed down in the industry as a way to ensure silence through shared secrets. In her view, Clive Davis understood this system long before Diddy did. She believes he taught Diddy how to create environments where people would stay silent because speaking out would damage themselves. There is no verified evidence directly linking Clive Davis to these events. However, some former employees have quietly described a culture where, after a certain hour, safety no longer seemed important.
Relationship between Clive Davis and Diddy's interesting because when Diddy's 23 years old, he's making a name for himself. Clive gave him $15 million to start Bad Boy Records. And then later on, they did even a bigger deal where Clive gave him $50 million advance on future earnings. This is 5 years later in 1998. $6 million upfront payment, $700,000 annual salary, and a state-of-the-art recording studio. We're talking about $2 million recording studio. This is when he went after Faith Evans. He got Biggie in the early 90s. This is when it started. But there's a relationship with Clive. And it's interesting because Clive later on, they say something may have happened here because Shook said Clive taught him the bad habits. And later on, Clive comes out and says the following. Yes, record mogul Clive Davis has identified as being by he publicly revealed in his memoir, this is not allegedly, he said it, the soundtrack of my life. At the age of 80, he also discussed in an interview with Katie Couric, expressing the hope that his coming out would contribute to greater understanding of ballad.
This kind of system could explain why many powerful names remain silent. Silence becomes a way to survive. Speaking out can lead to self-destruction. Whether these claims are true or not, they show a wider belief that the music industry rewards loyalty to power more than honesty. Not every artist accepted this system quietly. Some pushed back, and when they did, the consequences were serious. TLC's confrontation with Clive Davis is often mentioned as an example. After selling millions of records, they reportedly received very little pay. Their frustration led to a direct confrontation at Arista Records. They demanded answers and respect. Jaguar Wright connects this to a larger pattern. She says artists who challenged authority were labeled as difficult, ungrateful, or unstable. Their careers slowed down and opportunities disappeared. She even suggests that some artists did not only lose their careers but also lost their lives. These claims are extremely serious and completely unproven. However, they continue because many people believe the industry has never been fully held accountable. In this story, Clive Davis represents the top of the system. Diddy represents the student who learned and mastered its rules. The artists represent assets that can be replaced. Whether someone believes these claims or not, they show how deep the mistrust in the industry runs.
And good afternoon. I'm Whit Johnson in New York. We're coming back on the air because the judge has just sentenced Sean Diddy Combs to 4 years in prison. He was found guilty over the summer on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution in connection with his ex-girlfriend Cassie Ventura and another woman, but was acquitted on more serious charges that could have sent him to prison for life. Let's get right to our chief investigative correspondent, Aaron Katersky, who's been following this trial from the beginning. He joins us from outside the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. So, Aaron, we just got the verdict right there. We know that Combs himself spoke to the judge. The judge responded. Lay out the sentencing here and what went down in the courtroom today.
This was a very long sentencing hearing, which Sean Combs himself, once larger than life, was left begging for mercy, standing at the defense table, telling the judge that he's a changed man, apologizing for his behavior. But that request for a lenient sentence of time served was rejected by the judge, Arun Subramanian, who said it was insufficient to send the kind of message that he wanted to send, that violence against women must be met with real accountability. And so he sentenced Sean Combs to 4 years in prison. That's not as much as federal prosecutors here wanted. They wanted 11 years in prison, reminding the judge that Sean Combs has a penchant for violence and abuse, pointing to 2016 hotel security video showing Combs attacking Cassie Ventura. Combs says he knows that video intimately. He apologized to Cassie Ventura. The judge said 11 years was unreasonable, but 4 years is just the right amount, the judge said, to send a message to Sean Combs, to victims of domestic violence, that their accounts will be taken seriously.
Whit, Aaron, thanks. Let's go ahead and bring in a trial attorney and ABC News legal contributor, Brian Buckmeyer. Brian, we just heard Aaron lay out right there that the defense was hoping for 14 months in credit for time served. The prosecution wanted 11 years. So this is somewhere in the middle. Is this verdict what you expected?
It actually was not what I expected, and this is why I say that. The probation report said anywhere from 70 to 87 months, much higher than the 15 months that the judge gave. And understand, and I'll try to break down the math as best as I can, the judge understands the math of how this all works. With 50 months in the federal system, you only do 85% of that. So you take away about 8 months or so, that's 42 months. And don't forget that Sean Combs has already been sitting in MDC, the jail here in Brooklyn, New York, for 13 months. So you subtract 13 months even from that, you're looking at something like 2 years, maybe 3 years at the end of the day. The judge knew that and still gave this sentence. I think if you're Sean Combs and his defense team, a hard day, but overall a win for them.
Diddy's legal troubles have changed the situation. The protection that once surrounded him seems weaker. Lawsuits are now public. Investigations are ongoing. Former friends and allies are distancing themselves. When one powerful figure loses protection, others begin to worry. Jaguar Wright believes Clive Davis is afraid not because he committed crimes, but because old history may be revisited and buried stories may be told again without protection. If Diddy recorded everything, then his downfall could affect more than just his own name. It could affect an entire era of unchecked power. Clive Davis has survived for decades by managing stories and controlling narratives. But narratives can fall apart when secrets come out. That is why, according to Jaguar Wright, this moment feels different. The silence feels heavier. The fear feels real. For years, the music industry followed unspoken rules. Do not ask questions. Do not challenge power. Do not expose what keeps the system running. Clive Davis stood at the top of that system. Diddy represented its next stage. Jaguar Wright represents a voice that refuses to stay silent. Whether her claims are true or exaggerated, they have started a conversation that the industry avoided for many years. If power was built on secrets, and if those secrets were recorded, then accountability may eventually come. The fall of one man is rarely only about him. It is also about who taught him, who protected him, and who now fears being named.
Yes, there were shrines used for rituals. There's bloody places. There's parts where there's limbs. People cut off limbs and want you to have sex in it. There's blood. There's blood that I don't even know who it belongs to. There's a lot.
So hang on. So someone like the people that you've named are here at these shrines where there is human flesh, bones, human body parts, and they want people to participate in orgies in amongst all of this human blood. Is that a satanic ritual? Feces? Is this a satanic ritual that they are participating in?
Yes. Yes, there's people who want to, there's people who have animals, dead animals. I was taken, and told that I had to give a blowjob to, Biden.
So Joe Biden was there at this shrine.
Mm-hmm. Something happened. I don't know what happened. I was down there for a while. There's certain people that you don't talk about because you just don't. There were certain people that I seen down there, from Beyonce, Jay-Z. You don't tell on P. Diddy, but P. Diddy.
So you said you don't tell on these people. Is that like a code that all victims adhere to? They don't talk about this stuff?
Yes, you don't, because nobody's going to believe you. You're nothing to them. You don't count. You're just a toy. You're not essential, as they call them. You're expendable. And as a child in that situation, I wasn't the type of person that was fighting all the time, because I started to learn who I was. I started to learn my pimp. I started to learn what I was in. I started to learn that you don't fight. You watch what you say, you watch what you do. And at some point I stopped fighting people, and I started to accept the fact of what I was told, that I was special enough to be with this person. I was special enough to be in the eyes of a celebrity or somebody who was on the radio or on TV. And I accepted that.
If the tapes ever come out, will Clive Davis still be untouchable? Let us know what you think in the comments below. If you like this video, hit that subscribe button so you never miss any new videos. And until then, keep it real.